Good evening. It is Thursday, the 5th of October 2023. It's coming up to 8:30 p.m. UK time. And this show today is in conversation with Jazzman Gerald from Jazzman Records. We've talked a little bit over the last sort of 6 months to a year. He's been involved in 45 Day, did a brilliant mix before. We've had a few chats, and it's a label that I absolutely love. And I know lots of the 45s community love the label as well. So I thought it'd be interesting, 30 years in the business, to find out a little bit more about Gerald, how he got there, musical influences. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation. And if you're listening back on YouTube, then make sure you hit that subscribe. If you're listening on Mixcloud, hit that follow. But hopefully you're here live with us and can have any questions you can. So, Gerald, how you doing?
Hey, how's things? All right.
I'm really good, thanks. We've got DJ Arlo, who's in the house. I am going to tell you about DJ Arlo while we're here. He's one of our 45 kids. I think I was talking to you about the 45 kids thing that my daughter does. He's one of our oldest DJs in that crew, 13. He's a brilliant hip hop scratch DJ, and he's coming to the UK next month. So he's only 13 and he's amazing. So
Right.
he's
Okay.
something cool to know. Mark Lancaster's in the house as well. He's a big Jazzman Records aficionado. He won
Good
Best
man.
Jazz 45s DJ in the 2023 45 Day Awards. So he messaged and said he was definitely going to be tuning in. So good to see him. And DJ One of a Kind. I was with him today over in Hastings at Mr. Thing's shop. And we were talking about you. I was telling him you were going to be on today, and he said he's definitely after the new album.
Okay.
Spiritual, I think Spiritual Jazz, isn't it? 14. Is that the
Yeah,
new one? Yeah.
it is. Yeah, been doing
Cool.
really well. Obviously pleased with that. You know, still early days.
Yeah, it's a good start. Butchie B as well. Welcome in. So, we've spoken a little bit on the phone, but I always ask my guests so that we get an idea of where music and the passion came from. So, for you, who is the earliest person you remember getting you involved in music in terms of parents or brothers, sisters, friends, and what sort of records do you remember from that time?
Oh crikey. How far back do you want to go to? Like when I was like a toddler or something? Because I do
Well,
remember
I
listening
mean,
to
yeah. When
Peter
did
the
you
Wolf.
first
Was
remember
it
it?
Peter the Wolf or something? Some Peter and the Wolf, was it? I think that was introduced to us when you're really young. But it wasn't. But in the 70s, there weren't any computer games. There wasn't any internet. There weren't.
Yeah,
You couldn't even watch video. There was only like 3 or 4 channels on TV. So music was a big deal in terms of entertainment. It was probably the only thing you could go to. That you'd literally have at your fingertips. So I remember. I used to like a lot of people. You'd listen religiously to the top 40 on Radio 1, 5 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and you'd hear the countdown, and you'd hear all the latest pop hits and everything. So this would have been like in the mid 70s. So I would have been listening to the same stuff as pretty much everyone was listening to
yeah,
in those days. It wasn't obviously. It's like a lot of people. I think when you get into your teens, that's when you diversify. That's when you think there's got to be a bit more to it than this. There's got to be something a bit more, a bit more oomph into it than cheesy pop music that you see on top of the pops.
yeah.
So that's when it all starts happening, and then you realise there's a massive world out there. And even now, here we are, 40 years on, and it still hasn't shrank. It's still incredible the amount of music that's been made that's worth listening to over the last God knows how many years. Never stops.
It doesn't, and you don't really have enough time to take it all in, do you?
No,
Because
no,
there's
no, no.
so much coming from all different genres, all different subgenres, reissues, re-edits, all sorts of music just coming at you. You just can't take it all in, and that's a great thing in one sense because there's so much content.
Well, it's frustrating in another because I'm looking now at my record collection. I'm thinking if I listened to every single one of them records all the way through, it'd probably take
Yeah,
it probably wouldn't be able to do it in my lifetime. So it's
yeah,
frustrating not be able to hear them. But then again, I have actually listened to all at least once, so it's not
yeah,
that bad. But there's a lot more to come. But what you do, you whittle things down to your favourites, don't you? You think, oh,
yeah.
which one, top 5 or top 10, and then it goes into genres, and it never stops. So I'm quite happy with that. Really, it's a good problem to have. I've got
Yeah,
records that I bought years ago. I still haven't got around to listening yet,
yeah,
and I'm sure just waiting for the right time, waiting for the
Yeah,
right moment, I suppose. And there's other
definitely.
ones that you play on rotation and so on and so forth. But
But
that's
they're all
it's
they're
all
all
part of
part
fun.
of you, aren't they? I think Mark
Yeah,
Lancaster was talking about earlier, put a meme up of Baby Yoda doing a pose, and basically it was like the records you haven't listened to yet, watching you buying new records. And it's like basically, we've got so many records that we probably haven't even listened to yet we keep buying more
yeah.
records.
And I know. Well, it's a problem, but it's not a problem, if you see what I
Yeah,
mean. It's not something that
definitely.
bothers me. I look at it, I think. I mean, I've got some things behind me now that I must have bought 6 or 7 years ago, maybe, and I don't know. It's just nice to have something in reserve.
Yeah,
Nice to know that there's, the cupboard's never going to be bare. The fridge isn't never going to be empty. There's always something something fresh I can listen to if when I need something, my ears to hear something fresh and new, rather than something that I know well, what have you. So
yeah,
that's a good thing.
definitely.
But yeah, I don't know. I've bought records almost pretty much every day for the last 40 years or something. It's not always for
Yeah,
myself, but
yeah,
for
yeah.
reselling as well. But it's
I'm
all
not. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not buying them every day now. I think during the lockdown, I probably was, and I think a lot of us sort of expanded our record collections during lockdown because of Twitch, but because of obviously the situation. But um, yeah, like you say, if you can afford them and it's not doing any harm, it's a positive thing to sort of be addicted to
Yeah.
buying records, isn't it?
But even if you can't afford them, a lot of people,
Yeah,
I certainly do know of people who, buy records instead of paying rent, or they'll live on beans on toast so they can have records to buy. And that's one, I don't know, there's one thing that keeps us in business, if you like. There's always people that are going to be buying
yeah,
records, no matter how dire the economics of the country are, their personal economics. People will always buy records because it's a need, it's an infatuation, it's like a drug, isn't it? People, you need to have that musical fix, and records are something that that assuages that musical thirst that they have. I'm one of them too. I know exactly where people are coming from, so it's not an issue. But the beautiful thing about them is also, as you know, and as your listeners know, is records. They don't go down in value. If you buy them, you can always,
very rarely.
maybe on a
Yeah,
hard up, you can always sell them again and make
yeah,
your money back. You can't do that with a download, for
exactly,
example.
exactly,
Well, there is
exactly.
an interesting story about that. I did see on the news a few years ago. This guy in New York, and he'd spent $1,000 on downloads over the years,
Yeah,
and when he eventually died, his family said to his the people sorting out his will and everything. They said, "Well, we'd like to have those
yeah,
songs that he paid for and he downloaded." And they said, "No, you can't. They were
yeah,
his." And they were like, "Yeah, but he's paid for them. He's paid $1,000 for these recordings.
yeah,
We should have them now." And they said, "No." So they're
yeah,
literally worthless.
yeah.
If he bought
Pretty much.
records or CDs, they'd be they'd be
I mean,
sorted. They'd be
even
fixed in.
CDs. Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
looking in that corner. I've got lots of CDs that I'm probably never going to play again. They're not worth much, but they're still worth
Well, there's
something
still
to someone.
tangible. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's all
it's something
something.
to someone. Someone will buy something, and it's like, yeah, why not? And it's the same with records. That's why
Yeah,
there's so many buyers and sellers. Because you've got records, and then you need to buy more space to get more records in.
yeah.
Um, cool. So we talked a little bit about musical influences then. So when did it get to the stage where you got a bit more involved and sort of started DJing? And did that come before Jazzman Records or after?
Oh, with DJing, that was basically, well, this would have been in the mid to late 80s. In fact, it would have been about 987 or 88 or something like that. And I, DJs, they were the ones, when I went to clubs or parties or discos or what have you. The DJs, you never actually thought that you could be doing that. They were like, they were the behind the scenes people that that were in on what was going on. I was just a puncher in those days, just like
Yeah.
most people are. You just go there to enjoy yourself. You don't even think about being a DJ. And then there came a point, I think, when I was buying what I suppose were rare grooves occurred. I was buying the compilations, things like Urban Classics Volume 1, got to get your own, some rare grooves put together by Shaking Fingerbox team, Femi Fem, and Norman J and people like that. And that's when that music, it just made me think, well, this stuff is being played by DJs, and they're playing the real records that these compilations are coming from, and it just sort of turned my mind, so to speak. And then I was actually living in Liverpool at the time, and this guy, we went to a club, and he was DJing at this club, and he said, look, why don't you give it a go? I was like, what, me? I've never done it before. So he showed me what to do. He showed me the techniques. He showed me the slip mats, and went behind the scenes, and all of a sudden, I was there. And there was only about 10 or 20 people in the club or something. It was just a student do, but that was it. You get the thrill. Don't you? You can play whatever tune you want. You can play it as loud as you want. You can play the next record, and you think, right, this I want to hear this. And so you're in charge, and it's like your own private do where you can play the music you want, and that's a massive thrill to be able to do something like that. And so once you started, and you get the idea that you can actually do this, because I didn't I didn't find it hard, but I didn't find it easy either. I was never into mixing or anything like that. I'd never do that. I still can't. But just the idea of being able to choose what records you want to hear next. That's what I really enjoyed and got into.
And it's
and
great.
again, I was only playing compilations and stuff in those days, reissues and what have you.
I mean, it's still playing your music that you've chosen in the order that you want to hear it.
Exactly.
Which is effectively curating that hour. And like Arlo's saying, it's like your own club, and it's very similar to what we have here on Twitch, because effectively this is my club, and I can play whatever I want for that hour, right. And there's people come along and enjoy it, and that's the thrill, and that's why we do it, really.
Exactly. Yes. If people can get into the same vibe that you're trying to create, then you're making connections, and that connection is creating happiness and getting people dancing, getting people enjoying themselves, and that's what it's all about. It's all about fun and enjoyment and making people happy, and that's a good thing. And so you can really get off and stuff like that. You can see why how people reach get into euphoria and whatnot. So
and it's just there's so much negativity and so much difficult stuff that we've had to go through recently with the pandemic and everything else. It's something that sort of shines through that, and it's basically spreading positivity. And it's been a great trip so far. Cool. So that's your first gig, a sort of student gig. So where does it go from there? Do you do another one of those? Does it then do your own night? How does it progress?
Well, I left Liverpool and moved to London because I thought, well, that's where the records are. There's no internet, obviously, and the type of music I was getting into was it was like a parallel journey. On the one hand, it was jazz, which I was into, which was the Giles Peterson jazz dance type crowd, and then there was the rare groove, the funk and the soul, and that was the Norman J type crowd. As far as I was concerned, they were both relevant. They were both the same. They're both music for dancing and enjoying and playing loud, and it's primarily Black American music, just different forms of it. So I was you can't get records like that in the rest of the UK. You couldn't do in those days. I thought I've got to go to London. That's where the records are. That's where the scene is. It's where the music is. Where the clubs are. So I went there. This would have been 1989, 1990, or something like that. And so I didn't actually know anyone there. I hadn't a clue. Very naive, young lad from up north. And I didn't know how clubs worked, how promotions worked, how the DJ system worked, anything like that. So it did take me quite a while for me to get involved in that sort of stuff. It took me several years because, like I say, I hadn't a clue. Just turning up there and
like I say, it's completely
wondering
different.
how to go about it. So what I would do, it was going to record shops, and the flyers would be in the record shops, and so you go along to the club night that you saw on the flyer that looked interesting, and you talk to the guys in the record shops about the records, because in those days, again, got no idea what the records are. You look at them all and you think, what the hell is this? Or who is that? I've never heard of him. Don't know what it
Yeah.
is. There's a massive steep learning curve, and the only way you can do that is by getting in,
Talking and
really
listen, yeah, and
getting into
talking
it.
to people into
24
it as
as
well.
much as possible, hearing as much as you can, listening
Yeah.
to radio shows, talking to people you meet, and because you couldn't click your fingers and click a mouse like you can now. It was
Yeah.
you had to be severely dedicated. But I love the music so much, I was prepared to go into all of that and dedicate myself to it
What
and,
were the sort of
and
record
do the
shops you were
learning.
visiting in London back then?
Sorry, say again.
What were the sort of record shops you were visiting in London back then?
Well, the best. Well, this in those days, I was going to mostly to the jazz record shops. There was Mole Jazz in King's Cross. There was Honest John's, which is obviously still there. There was
Yeah.
Record and Tape Exchange. I think there were like 4 or 5 branches of it in those days. Reckless Records. This was before Mr. Bongo. Soul Jazz, when they were in Camden, that was
Right.
great. That was very informative. I remember going up to Soul Jazz. They were above Dingwalls, and it's just a little room
Yeah.
in those days. And Stuart, who's still the owner now, and Alec, his partner, he's not there anymore. I remember going in there my lunch break, saying, and asking, these records, how the hell do you know what the good ones are, and what the tracks are, and
Yeah.
I don't know. What is this one any good? Is that, I have a clue. You have to ask the record shop owner to know
Yeah.
what they are, and he was really helpful. He said, well, what you do, you look at the labels, or you look at the producers, you find things that you like, and you find another one it's got something in common, and you put two in together, and you listen to a lot, and and he was really helpful. I spent quite a lot
Yeah.
of money in soul jazz in those early days. Too much. Still got the records now
Yeah.
that I bought from then.
We've got
And
Damon McDonald remembers it at the back of Grazing Road.
yes, that's right. Yeah, they
Yeah.
closed down when they redeveloped King's Cross, and
And
they
Mark used,
weren't terribly
yeah.
good for buying the kind of records I was like. And they put silly high prices on, and but they didn't know completely what they're doing. So you could find bargains in there where they made mistakes. But again,
Okay.
it's all a learning curve. And there was Ray's Jazz,
Yeah.
of course, when they were in Covent Garden before they moved to the bookshop. And then there was record fairs as well. They have black music record fairs in things like the Camden Ballroom. Again, you'd go there and you'd meet the dealers like Mark Wimmers or Des Parks, who died just a few years ago. And by talking with them and by meeting other people at the stalls, you'd just learn so much and just
Yeah.
get the hang of it. And again, but lucky for me in those days, the records were nowhere near as expensive as the records they are now.
Yeah. I know.
Which
It's very different, isn't it?
a massive bonus.
So then did you
You can
then
afford to
start
take
DJing?
chances.
Yeah. Did you then start DJing in London once you're living there?
Not quite yet. I started my little stall in Camden before I
Okay.
started DJing. Um,
So tell us about that. Tell us about how that came about and why you did it.
well, what it was, I had a rubbish job just working in an accounts department of a company in the city, just to purely to make money so I could buy records. That's the only reason I did it, and to pay the rent, of course. But
Yeah.
what I really lived for was records and going out to listen to them at the weekend, and going out on my lunch hour to try and find them. So I remember I was in Camden at one point, and I bought a mixtape of someone and it said Rare Groove. I listened to it and I thought, it's rubbish. I can do. I've got this. I've got that. That's not very good. I can do
Right.
better than that.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, why? So I thought, well, why? If I can do better than that, why don't I just do that? And the company that I was working for, it was going down the pan. I was in the accounts department, so I could see they didn't have any money coming in. I
Right.
thought this job's not going to last very long. I have to do something. I really have got to do something now. I've got to get a new job, which I don't want to do, or maybe I could make a living flogging tapes down Camden or something. So you can guess which way I chose. Which one I
Yeah.
chose. So I made some tapes, and
Yeah.
I think and the tape. I worked out the cost. Tapes were like £1 each.
Right.
Did the artwork myself. Duplicate the tape and you sell them for £5 each. So I sold some like 6 or 10 tapes that first weekend.
Okay.
When the guy came around to collect the rent, I sort of like did a bit of a run around the corner so he couldn't find me, so I didn't have to pay any rent. And so the first weekend I made like 40-50 pounds, and
Okay.
I thought, well, I've made 40-50 quid this weekend, and normally I'd be going out spending 40-50 quid. So I just thought, well, I'm actually made a bit of money here. Let's carry on, keep doing it, and eventually it built up so much that I could afford. I borrowed £1,000 off the woman who's had the store next door to me. She was
Right.
selling Levi jeans, and uh, she must have been very trustworthy to lend me that money. Looking back on it,
That's
but
quite a
she
lot of
did.
money as well, I
Yeah, so
suppose,
she
back
lent me
then.
£1,000. So I thought, right, I'm going to go to America, buy my own records. I can do this because it can't be that hard. I've heard rumors that St. Louis is a really good place for records, so I'll go to St. Louis
Right.
and in the Midwest. It's really stupid. It's miles away, and all the cities have got good records in America in them days. So anyway, I went all the
Yeah.
way to St. Louis, and it was all right for records. I did bring some home, and a couple of boxes, excess baggage on the airplane, and I paid the stallhold next door. I paid it back within a couple of weeks.
Wow.
So yes, so I thought that I can do this. I can buy a
Amazing.
record for $5 and sell it for £10 or £20, whatever it is,
Well, I
and
suppose
make
also
money
with
out of it.
I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to work out. So this was when the dollar back then was like two
Oh yeah,
to
it was
one,
about
wasn't it?
$1 to £1. Yes,
So yeah, so
yes.
you're
Anyway,
effectively buying a good.
trying to answer your question, Crystal, about the DJing.
Oh, sorry.
I'm getting there. I'm
I'm
getting
sorry.
there. So
Go
because
on.
it had this little record store, it wasn't like a massive big deal or anything. It was just a couple of boxes. But I would meet people who were buying their records, and because I was meeting people who were able to chat to me about records, that's how you get involved in. Oh, do you fancy DJing at my club, sort of thing? And
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
that's how I got involved in doing that, and
Amazing.
that just snowballs from there.
Chris International is asking what year this was happening. So what year did you borrow that £1,000 and go to St. Louis?
Probably about early 90s, 92 or 93 or something like that. So
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
I guess so. I mean, my memory's not as sharp as it should be, but around about then, early 90s.
Yeah. So you've done that once. Do you then just carry on doing that? And is that how you start building up
Pretty much, yes.
the record label?
Because once I'd sold the records to pay the lady back, I had to go and get more.
Yeah.
And I must say, I kind of cheated a little way because my dad lives in America, and having him living there
Okay.
is extremely useful because I can just fly there and doss down at his place and borrow his car, whereas anyone else would have to, go in
Hire a
motels
car. Yeah.
and hire a car, which obviously eats into your profits and everything. So
Yeah.
I was very lucky that he lives he still lives out there, and he still helps me out. So
And
I was very fortunate with that. Also very fortunate because in those days you could literally go in the record
resell
shop,
it.
buy a $5 record that's worth 100 quid.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen anymore because the knowledge is out there. But in those days, you could. I mean, don't get me wrong, that didn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
But the potential was there definitely.
So when did it
And
sort of move from there to sort of setting up Jazzman Records?
well, this is it. What happened as time went on? The records are not a finite resource.
Yeah.
Eventually, they do run out, and and the dealers in America were getting the hang of the fact that this $5 record, they could be selling it for $20 or $50. So their
Yeah.
prices went up,
Right.
and the supply went down because people like myself and various other record dealers, there's quite a few of them at that point, and not just in the UK but Japan and Europe as well. They were becoming very thin on the ground in the States. They're getting harder to find, and the prices going up. So I thought, look, this situation, it's untenable. It can't last forever. So I'm gonna have to do something else, and at the time there were lots of bootlegs coming out, a lot of white label 12-inch and LP bootlegs compilations with all the top tracks on that all the DJs and everyone wanted, and they were quite shoddily done and cheaply done, and obviously they weren't done with paying any royalties and everything. And I remember looking at them and I'm thinking, again, like with the tape, I can do better than that.
Yeah.
I should be able to do that. You should be able to do this properly. There's a big enough market out there. The major labels and the big indies aren't interested because they're not really interested in this underground music. They're more interested in big selling pop music and whatnot. But I think there's a big enough market out there to sell 500 or 1,000 copies of this record, even if it's done legitimately. And so
Yeah.
so that's basically what I did. I found out about records that and tried to understand and learn about how to go about licensing them. Again, I haven't a clue. What do you do? Where do you start?
Well, I
What
mean,
does
again,
licensing
when is
mean? What
this?
does copyright mean? What does
Yeah.
a master
Yeah.
license? What does publishing mean? I hadn't a clue about any of that stuff. So somehow
Yeah.
I had to learn all of that before I could get it all started. But if you're determined, you do learn things, don't you? And so I did learn it all, and still learning now. You never know everything, but
No, exactly.
yes,
Just keep going.
track down the copyright for a single, and the reason why I chose that single, I remember DJing it, and it was Kathleen Emery. Sometimes I feel like Mother's Child. I remember DJing it at Into Something in Munich, in Germany.
Yeah.
Which was a huge, big club in Germany, playing Jazzman Records. They're a very well known, highly respected club. And I remember playing it, thinking, "Oh, let's give it a go, see what happens." Never played it before. It's a bit of a funny one, and the dance floor just instantly filled up. I thought, "Wow, this is good.
Yeah.
People like this record." But no one's got it. I was the only person I knew who had it. No one ever had heard of it. So I thought, this is the perfect record to reissue. One, no one's got it. Two, it's really good.
Yeah.
That's what people want to hear. So let's go for it. And that was the first one. And that was back in 1998. So
Yeah. I mean, that
yes.
must have been amazing. That must have just been like almost a lightning bolt moment. Yes, let's do it and see what happens. And then it must have been a success, because obviously it then just carries on with the label,
Well,
doesn't
yes,
it?
it was. It was risky. I had no idea, because
Yeah.
in those days, 7-inch singles, no one really cared about them. Everyone was buying albums.
Yeah.
And sevens were, in this scene at least, it wasn't like the Northern Soul scene, and the funk scene hadn't started. 7-inch singles were, they just weren't. People just didn't really care about them too much. There were literally just a handful of known sevens that were just doing the rounds. So things like Lee Field's Funky Screw, or there was
Yeah.
a Smoky Feeling, is it, by the Organisation, a bootleg Green Label thing. There were, a handful of funk singles that Quantity had turned up on. But albums were the main thing. But as we're all aware, there's a lot of tracks on albums that are worthy of being put out on 7 that never happened. And so I got my teeth into those over the course of the next few years, and did quite a lot of those.
And I guess the other thing, back then, people weren't playing or DJing 45s in the same way that they are now. So do you think your clientele was mainly collectors at the beginning?
That's right. There were very few people playing 45s. They were just seen as like like a novelty, or just something extra, or something you'd only play it on 45 if it wasn't on an LP. So it wasn't. It was definitely not a scene with regards to the scene that I was involved in about sevens. They were just, like I say, just a little extras, if you like. Only if you didn't have the album. So no one really gave them too much of a second thought. It was really when Kev Darge came along with his deep funk sound. That's the main time when people started taking notice of them, because he had all these funk singles that no one had, and the music was phenomenally good, and everyone all of a sudden wanted these, the records that he had. And I remember turning up to DJ with him once at Humpty Dump, and I had my bag of LPs, and he looked at me with a look of horror on his face. He said, "What the hell are you doing with them?" I said, "I come to DJ." He says, "You're not playing LPs, they're for listening to at home. You DJ 7-inch singles, that's what they're for." And I remember him saying that, and he had a point. He had a point, because sevens, they are cut louder, they are cut, made for the dance floor. They're made for DJing. The best track off the album traditionally is used for the DJs. So because it's the more popular or most accessible or danceable track off the album. So yes, he had a point, and that really turned my eyes around. Plus the fact that a lot of the tracks off the LPs and the LPs, people had sort of kind of discovered them all, but there was a hell of a lot of music that hadn't been discovered that had only come out on the 7-inch, especially with the funk stuff. So that really was quite a big turnaround, a big opportunity to find out about a lot of music that was otherwise obscure or uncovered or no one really cared about. And so between Keb and Malcolm Cato, the drummer, we were good friends in those days, swapping records and getting into jazz as well as funk. He was the guy who really him and Keb were really ones who really turned me on to sevens, especially Malcolm. And because he used to say, he just told me outright, he said, look, people love 7-inch records because people just love them. That people, the real serious hardcore collectors will collect sevens, and I think he's right, because because of because of their essence, because of their power.
Yeah, they're amazing. I mean, obviously, yeah.
But you know all this, Criztoz, don't you?
I know, but it's nice
all the listeners know this. They know the power of the 7-inch single, and how wonderful they are. All that excitement and energy bursting into, just squeezed into 2 or 3 minutes.
I know, it's amazing.
Can't
We've got a
beat it.
question. We've got a question from Mark Lancaster.
Go on then.
He'd like to know how you find some of this stuff. The Robert Baines 45 is one of his favorites, but he knows it was never released. How did you find it?
That one just was an acetate, and I think I got it off the internet, and I tried to research it. Zilch. Absolutely nothing on the internet at all. So I have no idea about that one. But basically, with records, to find the records that I get, well, first of all, I don't do much else. I'm full-time. Right. I work full-time doing music and records. So while everyone else is doing their day jobs, I'm looking for records. So, I've kind of got an advantage there.
Yeah.
And secondly, when I say full-time, up until recently when I had kids, then it literally was full-time, 7 days a week, and morning, noon and night, nothing else but running the business and looking for records. And because you're doing that, and because of the position that I'm in, where I'm running a business, and I've got a lot of records to offer as well as purchasing power, people do seek me out. Whereas if if you're just a random record buyer wherever you might be, you may not have a high profile. I'm lucky where I've got a profile where people will seek me out and they'll know me because of what I do. So I'm able to get contacts like that, which which is a massive bonus, obviously, because people take you seriously as well, and they know you're not going to mess them about and whatnot. But that's one thing I have learned. If you do see a rare record that you want, don't mess about. Buy the thing. Because you may never see it again. You may not see it for another 10 years, and the price will be triple by then. So
that's a good point.
You got to be professional in these things. You got to get strike while the iron's hot, and when you see that record you want, grab it.
Definitely. One of our kind is saying yes. He had a question earlier, and I don't know. He said, "Isn't there a painful story of a large missing container with gems in, Gerald?"
Oh God, yeah.
Do you want to tell that one?
I can. Yes. There's been plenty of losses in my time of records. Some more than others. I've been a victim of theft, of shoplifting, of outright stealing, of skullduggery, and all kinds of things. It's a music business. It's what happens.
Yeah.
People, are desperate for records. They'll steal from you. I've had friends steal from me, which is the most saddening thing of all.
Yeah.
And that's pretty hard to take. But the container that the questioner is referring to, basically, this would have been I think this was it was definitely in the late 90s. I remember what I was doing. For instance, I was taking when I first went to America, I took £1,000 over, The next time I went, I think I maybe took 2,000. Eventually, I was taking like 10,000 over, and there came to a point when I took that 10,000 over. It's more than I've ever taken over before, and I spent it all on records, as you do. And on this particular trip, I remember I was with a mate of mine in New Hampshire, and we went up to Maine, and there's a warehouse there that still had a lot of old dead stock from the 70s, a lot
Right.
of sealed LPs. And I've still got a list here on my shelf of all the records that I bought on that trip, because I had to catalogue them all for the insurance, which didn't come through. And it's painful to look at, when I see multiple sealed copies of Cannonball Adderley's Solar Bible, David Axelrod, first pressing Songs of Innocence,
Amazing.
that cover, multiple sealed copies of these things.
Yeah.
Dorothy Ashby, Afro Harping. I remember those
Wow.
because they're in the A section, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So I'd hit the mother load, hit the big time, spent all my money, 10 grand, on those records, and packed them in boxes. And what I was doing up until then, I was bringing them back on the aeroplane as excess baggage, cargo, because they'd be literally on the plane with me. They couldn't get lost. I was paranoid about someone nicking them. And up until that, and it might have been it was really inconvenient, because you literally have to lug them around, and they're heavy, these boxes. They're 20 kilos each.
Yeah,
there might be like 10 or 20 boxes per shipment. Anyway, on this occasion, I thought, right, okay, I've got a bit more cash this time. I'm going to do it properly. I'll get a freight forwarder to do it for me. They'll collect the records, ship them over, pay the taxes, bill me for it all, deliver them to my house. And so that's what I did. I used the same freight forwarder that all the other record guys are using. I don't really want to mention their name now, but anyway. So I thought, because they had a reputable, and they were reputable. Yeah. They did their job properly. They shipped them over, and they were given to CityLink, and they don't exist anymore, but they're like FedEx or TNT, big company, big vans with CityLink written all over the side of them. They gave them to CityLink, so they did their job. They got in the CityLink van. What happened is, or so I'm told by the investigation, is that the driver of the van popped out of the van to deliver something to another, to someone, and all my records are in the back. Meanwhile, someone had a spare set of keys, or nicked his keys, jumped in the van and drove off. All my records are in the back. Right. So instead of them getting delivered to me, someone nicked them all, and the van was found in Enfield, and it was just completely empty. And that is all I know. I don't know anything else. Nothing has been found. So somewhere there's multiple sealed copies of incredibly awesome albums. God knows what's happened to them. I don't know if they knew what was going to be in there, or if they were just taking a chance. I haven't a clue. And you're guessing, and even to this day, I haven't a clue. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But,
so that that was pretty much all your money sunk into that, was it, at that time?
Yes. I cried. I cried proper tears when I found out that had happened, and because that was about to set me up for a proper big time. I could have got a shop or something with the proceeds of all that, and really got me in the set me going really well. But instead, so the next list I had to send out, mail order list. I didn't have my stock was really down because it's all been nicked. So I thought, oh crikey, what am I going to? I've got half a page to fill out. What am I going to put in the page? Because I've just got got big blanks. So I just put in I don't know, wrote some nonsense and did a competition saying win a prize if you if you can answer these 3 questions. I just trying to fill it up with the space. But eventually, it did put me back a few years. Yeah. But
that must have been really, really tough to sort of deal with.
It's no fun.
Yeah. But I think the thing to take away from it as well is that you didn't give up. You're like, this is what I've been doing. This is what I want to do. I still want to do records. I still want to buy and sell. And you carried on and picked yourself up.
Well, anything in life, you have a setback. You can either just give up or you can keep going. It's if you look at any growth curve of any company, it's a zigzag that goes up. It's very rarely when it goes straight up like that. It goes up, then down a bit, then up, then down a bit, then up. And so this was just a little bit one of those down a bits. It's just a big down a bit. That's all.
Yeah.
But you know, I was quite determined to carry on. I'm quite a determined person. When I get my teeth into something, you know,
Yeah.
I'll make it happen. So yeah,
So where did it go from there? You put the first 45 out, and that obviously did well.
yeah.
How did it sort of, briefly sort of progress from there?
Well, I had to make more of it. The first one, I numbered it 1 to 500 and put stickers on
Right.
by hand. Never do that again. It's a nuisance having to write 1 to 500 in a pen.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah, I had to make more because it was doing so well. So that's all right. And then the next one, the Frank Motley, I only made 500 of them because this was just before the funk had really taken off. And so I thought, I'm not going to sell many of them. So we only made 500 of those. And the third one, oh, crikey, what's the third one? Not sure what it is now. But anyway, I was only making 500 or 1,000 of them. And they were selling, you know, wholesale for like £1.80 or £2, and they were retailing for like £4.
okay.
So, you know, there wasn't a hell of a lot of money to be made in them, you know, but
Yeah.
they were a lot cheaper to make in those days as well. But
Yeah.
it was enough, you know, make a few £100 on each one, you invest it back into the next one,
Yeah.
and so on. And I think at its peak, in the early noughties, I was probably pressing maybe 1 or 2,000 of them, but I'm pretty sure none of them were more than 2,000.
Right.
So yeah, and
That's a
so
lot. If you
you
think
know,
about 45s now, that's quite a lot, isn't it? Even
yes,
now.
yes, that's right. I don't do them anymore for that reason because they're
Yeah.
just so expensive to make, and there's not enough return, and they're too risky. So
Yeah.
you know, it's totally different setup now to how it was. You know, literally 20 years ago. It sounds like a long time, but it actually is a long time, isn't it? 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Just gonna
But
say
I did
Nigel
I
Marlowe.
hunted on the Jazzman label, and I thought, right, let's call it quits. Let some other people have a go. So they're all
Yeah.
collector's items now, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I think people are still buying them, which is great. And obviously you're selling what you've got, but you're also selling other people's records now as well, aren't you? And you've just relaunched the website, haven't
Yeah.
you? So
Um.
tell us a little bit about when you started selling online, and
Yeah.
then obviously jumped to sort of the website and what's on offer now.
Okay. We started online. It probably was the year 1999 or 2000, something like that. You know, websites were crap in those days. I don't even think we had sound clips. And actually, yes, we will have had sound clips, but there would have been, you know, the whole scenario is very basic in those days. And because I was selling records at the market anyway, what would happen is occasionally people would come along and bring their homemade records and say, "Oh look, I've just made this LP or press this 7. Do you want to sell some for us?" Yeah,
Right.
I'll take 5 or 10 copies, what have you. And so we'd have them for sale at the market in Camden anyway. And in doing so, you know, I'd sell them mail order on my on the list as well. And then obviously, you know, it's just a small step to putting the same things up on the website. So you'd have a little section on the website, not just selling the secondhand stuff, but the new stuff too. And it literally was a progression in that the stuff you sell on the website then, it's continued pretty much exactly the same way for the last 20 odd years. The stock's
Yeah.
got more and more, and but the sophistication of the website has got more and more too. And I think that's really important because, you know, like I was saying half an hour ago about the way to find out about music is by talking with people and
Yep.
either friends or the guys in the record shops. Well, the way we've tried to make the website is like that, so that if you were in a shop or say, for instance, you'd say to the shop owner, or you'd say to someone you mate, you'd say, "What I really want is like an instrumental, but 60s style, funky 60s instrumental. Where can I get
Yep.
some of that?" And the guy in the shop, if he knows what he's doing, say, "Well, you might want to listen to this, or you might want to listen to this." And that's what I'd be doing in Camden, you know, the same sort of thing. But now, you know, if you're not in a shop, you're on the internet. How do you do that?
Yep.
What you do, you click on 60s instrumental funk, and hopefully some records will come up that fit that criteria. And that's what we try to do with the website, so
Right.
that people can find these obscure records or that they otherwise wouldn't know about. because otherwise you're just going to be buying stuff or looking at stuff that you know already. But you know,
Yeah.
as you know, the beauty of music a lot of the time is finding out about stuff you don't know, finding the
Oh,
tune that's going
definitely.
to really do it for you that you would never otherwise have known about.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what we're trying to do. I think that's what sets our website apart from the others. The fact that you can search by all these various genres. If you want an Exotica 7-inch that's instrumental, then you can click on those things, and it'll narrow everything down. So you don't have to go through thousands and thousands of other things that are completely
Yeah.
irrelevant. Anyway, I hope it works. I'd like to think so. We've put a lot of work into it the last
Yeah.
couple of
Yeah.
years.
I
So,
was having a
and
look
you
at
know,
it
it's
today.
evolved over a long time, long period, literally 20 odd years.
Yeah.
We've come up with what it is at the moment.
It's
Because you know,
it's looking
this
very
music
slick.
we talk about, it's
Yeah.
esoteric music. It's not pop music, is it? It's very niche.
Um, yeah, and obviously sevens are still niche. I think we think it's a bigger thing because we're involved in it, and obviously
Yeah,
everyone we know is DJing, but it's still quite niche, the sevens thing. But it's also curation, isn't it? You've curated your shop, what you're selling online, and it's basically saying to people, look, this is what I've curated. Come and check out some of it, and here's some recommendations. And that's always good, isn't
yes,
it? To have and almost a bit more of a human. I know it's on a computer, but a bit more of a human sort of referral rather than sort of like AI or whatever might sort of chuck
yeah,
out at you.
yeah. Because I do all by myself, and I'll get lists from shops and distributors saying, and from even random people who actually make the records saying, "Do you want to put this on your website?" I can't choose everything, and
Yeah,
wouldn't want to choose everything. I certainly wouldn't choose stuff just because it's going to sell a hell of a lot. I'll choose stuff that I think fits the demographic of the people that have been on our website. Otherwise, be swamped under with loads of pop music and rock music that that you and I don't care about.
exactly.
So I have to choose carefully the stuff I want. And what I like to do is say that I'm your local friendly corner shop
Yeah,
compared to Tesco, say for instance. If
yeah,
you go to Tesco, and they don't, the shop assistants, they don't know what you want. They don't care. They just want to take your money and you walk out of there.
yeah,
But you go to your local friendly corner shop or your local friendly record shop, and they'll get to know you, and they'll say, "Oh, I've got this in for you today. You might like this," or what sort of stuff you're after. I'd like this kind of music. Oh, if you like that, then you'll like that. And that's
that's
the way it should be with
that's
music.
what I did
'Cause
today. I went to Mr. Thing shop and Andre, DJ One of a Kind, of got saw, and between them, they were just like, check this out and check this record out. I'm looking for this,
exactly. Yeah.
I'm looking for that, but it's online, isn't it?
Well, that's how it should be. That's a nice little stack of records you got there,
Yeah,
and that's how it should be. Otherwise, you'll get disillusioned trying to find something, a needle in a haystack, and or trying to. I mean, I remember buying a. I've made wasted so much money on so many mistakes by buying records just because they look good, because you can't hear them, and you
yeah.
think, oh, that sounds good. I'll take a chance on it, and yeah, oh dear, what am I going to put it on a bit? I mean, you can put it on Discogs now, obviously, but in the past,
Yeah,
you're stuck with it. So, but
yeah,
now you
yeah.
can. It's so much better where you can, choose what you want and have people direct you. Or, like I say, if not people direct you, then have your choices reflected by what options you click on the website.
Well,
So,
exactly.
I'd
And
like to think that it works.
DSK is saying it's a good website, and I've literally done what you said. I've put in 60s Indian funk, and it's chucked out a load of stuff I've never heard of before. Well, a couple of
That you
labels here. Yeah, there's a couple here that I know, but there's a lot of stuff here I don't know. So that's brilliant.
Well,
So
there we are.
it
Or you can
works.
click on the label and see other things, like
Yeah, yeah,
Alex told me, as you said, look for stuff. For instance, I remember specifically him saying, I picked up a Bad Donato on Blue Thumb, which ironically, Soul Jazz are just advertising today, saying it's in their shop. But anyway, I picked that up. I said, what is this record? He goes, oh, you'll like that. If you look at the back, it's got you see it's produced by, I can't remember who the hell it's by, but by so and so. It's on Blue Thumb Records, which means it's going to be in the 70s. It's going to be some funky, jazzy sort of stuff.
yeah.
And it was a great record. So you look at other records on Blue Thumb, and you'll find similar sort of stuff. So just by looking at labels or producers, you can find stuff. We haven't got the producer option on the website, but you can search by stuff by the same artist or by the same label, or the same genre or subgenre of the subgenre within the genre, etc., etc., etc. You can get as specialist as you like, and it'll come up with options. And the thing is, you need a human being to actually say that. If you put if you give me a record and play it, I'll say, right, this, I would stick that in the Latin section or Latin soul or something.
Yeah.
But only someone who actually knows what Latin or Latin soul would actually be able to do that. Most people, I suppose, that might not know what the hell it is, or just not know what, or they might think it's Brazilian when it's actually Mexican or American. So you do need, you are actually using the knowledge that's been acquired to actually get these records in the right sections, and that's what you're looking for on the website. You're actually going through someone who's actually got the ability to be able to make those selections, rather than Tesco, where everything just gets chucked in the vegetables in the vegetable section, and that's it, and you don't get much stuff.
Yeah, it's a brilliant website, and if anyone doesn't know, it is obviously jazzmanrecords.co.uk. So you can click on the link in the chat.
We only launched it a few days ago, Criztoz. So
it's looking good.
It's been working all right so far. But you know what websites are like? They have teething problems and stuff. I think we've ironed them all out, and we've been getting quite a few orders through. So fingers crossed it's all okay.
Yeah. Well, I will. I'll be looking as well. And DJ One of a Kind says, "So blessed to have these people, bar making me bankrupt." So it's like you were saying earlier, people will always buy records. And
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
You spend money with records on me, then I'll give it back to you and buy your records. It goes around in a massive circle. It just never stops. Definitely. It's what we do.
Yeah, and it's spreading. You said earlier on about sort of spreading joy and the passion of what we do, but it's also spreading the music, isn't it? If you've got a brilliant record, then let someone else have some time with it and play it out and have their experiences with it. And that's where sort of DJing comes back to, isn't it? Right? I know a lot of the records I bought today, One of a Kind would have played out at events, and then now I'm going to get to play them. And it's that sort of history of a record that you don't have, as you said, with downloads. Like you said, he wouldn't sell me a download, whereas he can sell me a record, and you can sell me a record, and whoever else can sell me a record.
Well, one reason why I did also, another reason why I did start doing the reissues is because it's one thing that's very important to bear in mind, I think, and that is that you or I may own the record, but you don't own the sound that's been embodied in that record.
Yeah.
And that sound was created by an artist, a musician. And that artist and musician, they had the desire, the inclination, the passion, and the determination to come up with that music and record it, spend their money on recording it and pressing that record, all of which, not only comes from their heart, but comes from their pocket too. So you have to give a lot of respect to the artists who actually make these records in the first place, because they're the ones that truly own the music. And the reason why they have embodied that music on record is so that people can hear it. Not necessarily, they didn't necessarily do it to become rich and famous and everything. They did it because they had a passion within themselves that they wanted to get their music out there and heard. They may not have had loads of money to press thousands of copies of records, and so a lot of them end up being quite rare, or not even getting out of their local hometown or state. So I see it as part of my journey, if you like, to make sure that the music, the good ones, because there's a lot of rubbish out there, remember. So,
yeah.
the ones that are good, actually do get heard and are heard by the audience that will appreciate them and but most importantly, will make that audience happy and give them the thrill that musician wants them to feel when they hear that music, that spine tingling, or make them dance, or whatever it is. Make things better by having that music spread around. And that's the bottom line of all of this. That's what all of us do the DJing, while all of us collect records, is to spread happiness. It
Yeah.
sounds like cheesy and cliche, but it's true.
It's
It's
true.
true.
And if you spread happiness, you sort of spread love and joy, and it comes back to
Yes,
you, doesn't it? And
yes,
that's
yes,
what we all really thrive on.
yes.
Even if you're the massivest DJ or the bedroom DJ, that's what you're sort of going for. We've got a question as well. This
Yeah.
is from DJ DSK. Gerald, are you excited by much new music? If so, what?
I don't get to hear a great deal of new music, quite simply because my head's stuck back in the
Yeah.
20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So I don't get to hear a lot of it, unfortunately. But people do send me records to listen to or music to listen to, and I do listen to everything that people send me. And uh, I have to be very fussy because if I release a record, it costs me thousands and thousands of pounds plus months and months of work. So I've got to be
Yeah.
very fussy when I release a record, very picky because you got to really uh, know exactly what you're doing with it and be dedicated to it to make a success of it. So so in the sense that do I like much new music? I do like it, but the new music that I do like tends to be in the style of older music. Whether it's jazz
Okay.
or funk
Yeah.
primarily, or just slightly esoteric, weird music like library music or something like that. If it's done with a in a style that's a bit quirky or interesting or unique, then that's I'd like to hear that. If it's formulaic or generic, then it's like, well, why are you doing this? We've heard this a million times before. So with new music, yeah, you've got to put your own stamp on it, your own voice on it. And but
Definitely.
I do listen to quite a lot of it because I buy in for the web shop. So there's a lot of things, new
Yeah.
music that come on that. But again, it's just finding the time. Records take time to listen to and evaluate. But let me have a look around, see if there's any new things here. Here's some new music. I was listening to this. That's
Okay, hold
good.
on. Let me just
Yeah,
solo you
Richard
across.
Sackmore
Can
on
you just hold that up again? Sorry, Gerald. Can you just hold that up again?
You want to hold it again?
Yeah. Yeah.
This one.
Okay.
That's
Idris Akim on the
on
pyramid.
Records. That's good. New stuff. Anything else down here?
Kev Clark saying the new
No,
Matt
it's all
Berry
oldies. All
45.
oldies.
They're all oldies. I'm
Yes.
waiting for mine to arrive, Kev. I'm looking forward to
But
that Matt Berry.
that was on rotation recently.
Excellent. Right. So going forwards, I think we're sort of getting towards the end of the show today. But going forwards, where do you see Jazzman Records going? Obviously, the new launch of the website. Is there anything else you're going to be doing?
Well, the website's going to take up a lot of my time because I really want to make a success of it. I've been working on it for, like I say, for the last 2 or 3 years to get it to where it is now. It's
Yep.
doing websites is it's not my forte. I have to get other people to do it because I don't know anything about stuff like that. But I have to tell the guy what I want. So that's very important because I've got have a lot of investment and time invested in that. So and I think it's quite unique in the sense of the selection that we've got, plus the fact that we've got stock that goes back years and years. Sometimes like over a decade. So we've got pretty deep crates. So there's definitely records there that other websites won't have, and the prices stay the same as well. So if the prices on Discogs might go up, we've still got it at the old price on our website. So you might even find bargains on there. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
certainly putting a lot of time and effort into the website. Plus there's another spiritual jazz album that's coming out next month. Plus I'm working on another one after that. They take a lot of time to do these spiritual jazz
Yeah.
albums because they're all various artists and there's a lot of individual licensing to do. And what else is there? So yeah, I don't really think too that far into the future. Only maybe like 6 months or something like that.
Okay.
So,
That's
but
fair enough.
I'd like to think that I've been doing this for like 30 years. I've still got a few more years left in me yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We've
uh,
got another
we'll
question.
see. Yes.
He was asking me about this today, actually. Speaking of DJing, are you still at it? Do you still DJ? Are you available for bookings? I think might be the question.
Well, to be honest, the answer is no. Reason
Okay.
being, and this is isn't something that that I take lightly. But I basically retired because 20 years of DJing has knackered my hearing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, I've got
Sorry to hear that.
and I because I didn't use hearing protection. I can't hear high frequencies very well.
Right.
So, for example, someone sent me a record back saying this record, Joe, it's got all hiss on it. I listened to it and I thought, sounds all right to me.
Yeah.
and I played it to someone else. He goes, yeah, it's got hiss. So basically, my high frequency hearing has gone. So
Right.
because too much DJing in loud clubs,
Yeah. Yeah.
like an idiot, I didn't put cotton wool in my ears or something. And so I don't want my hearing to deteriorate any further. I've got to listen to test pressings. I've got to enjoy music. I want to be able to hear the high frequencies, the cymbals. I want to be able to hear the hiss and the crackle on records, believe it
Yeah.
or not. I don't, and so I think to protect my hearing, it's probably the best if I don't go to loud clubs and hear loud music too much. It's because and if you are a DJ, if you're listening to me now and you don't take care of hearing, seriously, do it. Don't make the stupid mistake that I did. Wear your earbuds or whatever it is, and don't stand next to the loudspeakers. Anything over like 100 dB is going to damage your hearing permanently, and there's nothing you can do about it. So yeah,
that's
there
a
you
good
go.
tip. That's a good tip. Yeah, I think we've all been there
No,
a lot of the
well, yes,
time,
of course.
and I think a
And
lot
you
of us
don't
have
realise
had it,
it's too
and
late,
it's
of course.
exactly,
So
it is trying to keep on top of it, though, isn't it? Like you say, it's just trying to take care, and for you, it's important not to get your hearing worse because
well, of
obviously
course,
this is your
because
job, isn't it? It's your
music's
job.
my life. If I can't hear it, then I'm going to have massive issues, aren't I? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's a big deal. So
yeah,
I don't want it to. And as you get old, it deteriorates anyway. So the last thing I want is to not be able to hear the records that I love.
yeah.
So there you go.
Exactly. Right, Gerald, I'm just going to set the raid so we can go. We're going to take people to another channel. It
Yeah.
was possibly going to be Mr. Thing, unfortunately, but I saw he's ruined broken his last needle, so he can't DJ
Oh,
tonight. He normally DJs on a Thursday. We've been there, so we're going to go and see Ace Skills instead. But thank you so much for being on the show. DJ One of Kind saying, can you say thank you for everything you've done for the scene, particularly on the deep funk side, as he's still pushing that sound now because of you. Lots of great stories. Thank you so much. We discussed before there might be a part 2. We'll have a chat about that afterwards. I'm sure there's lots more stuff that we haven't talked
I've got
about.
more stories.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But it's been a pleasure. But yeah, if you hang on there, this will be available to watch back on YouTube probably tomorrow, and then on Mixcloud to listen to audio, and then it may find its way on a podcast as well soon. But thank you so much, Gerald. If you just hang on there, we'll have a quick chat after the stream.
Okay.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Criztoz. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care. And thank you everyone for being here.